All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and kick us off. As I said, happy Friday, and welcome to today's webinar, AI Unleashed: How Today's Marketers Are Redefining Creativity, Scale, and Impact. I'm Lisa Throckmorton, Managing Partner at REQ, and I am very excited to be moderating today's conversation. I think as we've all seen, AI is moving through marketing at an incredible pace. It's not just changing how teams produce content, it's changing how we think about creativity, scale, personalization, workflow, and business impact. And today we are going to talk about what's actually working inside modern marketing teams, where AI is creating efficiency, where human judgment still matters most, and what marketers should be testing next. We're going to spend most of the session in a panel discussion, and we will save time at the end for pre-submitted and live audience questions. So please feel free to submit questions as we go. My teammates Maria and Alexis are monitoring those, so we will surface those at the end. So with that said, we will jump into our discussion. And I would love to have each of our panelists introduce themselves. And as part of that, I'll ask each of you to share a little bit about your role, how AI is showing up in your work right now, and one AI feature, capability, or workflow you find yourself turning to on a regular basis. And Melissa, I thought we would start with you. So if you could introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do at Sumo Logic and share one AI feature or workflow you're using lately that helps you streamline your work.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So my name is Melissa Beck. I'm the Vice President of Corporate Marketing at Sumo Logic, which is a security intelligence platform company. I run all things corporate marketing, so comms, analyst relations, brand, customer marketing, content. So AI is really playing a very central role in adoption, particularly in my team. Admittedly, and I think I said this when we were talking and sort of prepping, AI is something that we talk about within our product, but it's actually fairly new for myself personally. I've been using ChatGPT obviously for some things, but over the last, I would say 2 to 3 months, my knowledge has accelerated significantly. So I'm really using AI as a thought partner. So really, sort of text creation. So I'm really using it to not replace my thinking, but accelerating it. I'm using it to iterate and refine messaging, pressure testing ideas, et cetera. I am starting to get into skill building and actually building models and workflows for certain things, activities in my team that we're testing out. So it's an exciting time. It feels overwhelming at times, but I'm super excited and I'm like a sponge. I'll probably learn a ton on this call, even what we can do.
Yeah, I know you will, because I feel like I've learned just from talking to you all in prep. Nate, let's go to you next. Introduce yourself, share what your role covers at 7AI, and tell us one AI capability or workflow you keep coming back to.
Yep, good. So I'm Nate Burke. I'm the CMO here at 7AI. So we're kind of one of these companies that is using AI internally for everything, but also that's what we're selling, right? So we're using AI agents to do a lot of security operations work. So if we're not using AI, then what are we doing, right? And so to me, like as our brand, we use the term do human work, and I look at AI as friction remover, right? Think of all of the things that you spend time on that isn't the thing that you want, right? All of the steps in the middle. And so I'm using mostly Claude skills all the time. And I'm going to just like show you real quick because my answer is everything skills. But what we've done is we do not use slide decks anymore, ever, ever, ever. This is our board deck, right? It's all HTML, right? We can output a PDF or PowerPoint or whatever, but everything ends up being HTML. And we've encoded these skills, encoded our design, our themes, our fonts, or whatever, right? So anytime a sales rep is saying, I need to create a presentation, it's all done through Claude. And it references my skill and builds everything exactly to brand specifications and just does it for people. One of the big frictions that I've always had, well, first board decks, man, like giant pain, takes a ton of time, doesn't anymore. Then something like, hey, we just did this campaign, sales reps need stuff, built a skill. So if we were doing a press release, it creates a page that says TLDR, this is what sales needs to know, what it is, how to talk about it, and then gives them things that they can share, creates one-pager, slides, email copy, channel kit, all of that stuff. It's reusable. So every campaign I do, it creates it and then adds it to this page. then I can do some pretty cool things that allow me to create content. So yesterday, someone came to me and said, I need a piece of content to be able to share with prospects that don't understand like the people part of what we do. They're just not getting it through, our email copy. And so in 15 minutes, I was able to create this asset, which really spells it all out and actually embeds a live demo in the page. So everything is done in skills. Everything is encoded. Everything is shared. It's all reusable. And it just saves so much time that it just allows us to do so much more.
And as you said, do human work, which is amazing. So awesome. Derek, you're up. Tell us about your role at Anaconda.
Yeah. Well, I'll just say Nate's little intro there was worth the whole webinar for everyone, including us, that came to this. So thank you, Nate, for kicking it off that way. So I had marketing at Anaconda. We are also an AI company. We're on the picks and shovels side of AI. Virtually anything on the planet that is doing anything AI is using something that probably part of which came from Anaconda. We have 52 million active users across the planet. I kind of feel like we're in a AI unleashed world here at Anaconda as an AI company. There's no kind of borders or blockers to what we do. So I have access to Claude. I use Cowork. I use ChatGPT. Thanks to Nate, I just got access to Claude Design, which I'm going to start using. We talked about that in our kind of pre-show efforts. And in addition to those tools, we have a whole bunch of AI-enabled things internally, and especially reporting capabilities. So natural language prompting to just about anything, any data that we have within our company. That could be customer calls, it could be marketing pipeline information, it could be information needed to assemble board decks or quarterly reviews or team meetings, what have you. I think if you look at kind of the one place that I could pick of how am I using AI, it's integrating more than one system together to help me get a result. So an easy way to think about that is every Friday morning, I have to give a company update or feed into our company internal newsletter, what has marketing done, as well as do my weekly report. So I have Cowork go out and look at Slack. It looks at my granola transcripts. It looks at Zoom. It looks at my calendar. It looks at all the emails back and forth, our Monday.com board, etc. And it collects all the information and conversations that I've had throughout the week, and then pulls that summary together. That saves hours of time. At other companies, you might spend 3 or 4 hours of time a week just trying to assemble that information and pull it together. So that multiple integration of systems is kind of critical to accelerating the work that we do at Anaconda, both for internal factors as well as external support systems.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. I think this has been a great baseline on how you all are using AI. I wanted to build from there and start a conversation about experimentation, because I think many marketing teams, that's the big question, is how do we move from playing with AI tools to actually changing the way work gets done? And Melissa, I thought I'd start with you on this one, since you mentioned in our prep call that the team had recently held an AI summit and spent time identifying actual problems AI could solve. So what does experimenting faster look like in practice for your team right now?
Yeah, I'm really lucky. We have our CMO is very much committed to sort of shifting our team into an AI modern marketing team. So we're talking about this and sharing things all the time. I think really the benefit of this is the cost of experimentation is really dropping dramatically, right? That's changing how marketing teams are operating. So we used to, in some areas you would take weeks to write messaging, test it, push it out, A/B testing, whatever it is. Today, you can prototype things and you can message and get creative out there immediately and sort of get immediate feedback. I mean, you saw what Nate just had drummed up in Claude and pushed it out to his team. So I think the key is just embracing a culture where small experiments are really encouraged, and that's really where we're at as a team. Some of these experimentations are becoming, bigger initiatives, no question. But, we've got a team that's sort of in various journeys in their comfortability on where they're at in AI, right? Some are really like comfortable with it and have been doing it in sort of other ways in their work. Others are just learning it. So I think if you're building that culture where experimentation is encouraged, that's a great first place to start.
I was just going to ask you about how you get people with different AI comfort levels moving in the same direction. Is there, outside of like building it into culture, is there any other way you might be supporting that?
Yeah, so we have an AI corporate initiative that's sort of coming down from the top, and so we're getting the tools that we need. We're getting training courses that sort of go along with that, right? And then we have a great sort of AI committee, and we've got Slack channels around Talk AI where we're sharing all of these learnings, right? Like, hey, I built this skill. Here's all the cool things it can do. One thing that I really want to flag that's not working is this and this. Has anyone tried to solve this? Is it hard sharing this, et cetera, et cetera? So we've got a very open culture that's supported from the top down on tooling and I think, education, but also sharing out all those learnings to the entire company.
Awesome. Nate, I'm wondering from your perspective where AI has helped you move from idea to output faster without sacrificing quality.
Yeah. So to me, it's this idea of first, like anything that you asked before, is it worth building? Like the bar for that is now zero, right? Because building is so easy. You saw a couple of examples, and so now you can just do it in 15 minutes. And I think when I'm thinking of things like without sacrificing quality, um, it was kind of a mindset change of rebuild other than over like patching, right? You start writing something and you keep doing a bunch of different revisions. And even though it kind of sucks, you just still do it. And with AI, I find myself just starting from a better like entry point and then rebuild. And so I think it's kind of made this like sunk cost of things that that aren't done well is just gone. And I think the way that we're encoding skills and finding the exact right way to say something, the right way to build something, and then just doing it over and over and over again, it's made the quality go up so much higher than you would expect. Like you think of a lot of AI slop and everything sounds the same, but if you're able to encode your voice just right, and one of the examples I have is I've got a skill that writes exactly in the voice of our CEO. How did I do that? I had hours and hours of transcripts of podcasts, of interviews, of videos. And now like he can't tell he didn't write it himself.
Wow.
I
That's
just did
awesome.
that this morning with one of our field CTO type roles of I had hours of his transcript and I just created content right from that. Here's a letter that he was sending off to a group of people in his voice, and it very much sounded like him. It
Yeah.
wasn't it wasn't my
The
voice.
problem of, oh, I've got to get an hour with you to talk about you don't have that
Yeah.
anymore.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
Yeah.
So Derek, how are you thinking about experimentation as a leadership challenge? I'm curious, like how you're encouraging your teams to use AI without making it feel like a random collection of tools.
Yeah, so one is just straight up getting people, encouraging people to use it and telling them it's not only important for us at Anaconda, but over your career, if you don't have these skills today, you become less and less employable the more you don't have those skills. So there is some career coaching along with this. Like this is a big thing that you can't ignore and you have to get into it. Um, so one of the ways it was kind of interesting, maybe a month or so ago, the broader company got access to Claude Cowork. And there are some great videos out there. If you just look at like how does marketing use Cowork that a lot of people have put together to give you ideas for what you might do with it. But one of the things that I told my team, instead of going out and looking for those videos, which you can do in your own time, take Cowork and connect your Google Drive and connect your Gmail and connect your Zoom and connect Slack and ask it to go and look at everything and all your granola conversations or whatever that were recorded. Have it look at all of that and then come back with it suggesting, based on what I've found, here's where you could use Cowork to automate your work, make it faster. So it's not even like, for some people, they're like, I'm not there yet. Like, I can't, you're giving me this tool, but I can't imagine how to actually use it. Right. I said,
Right.
you actually don't even have to do that now. Like, you just ask it based on everything that I've been talking about this week and slacking people about, what would you suggest might be a great project to do on Cowork? And then once it comes back with like, here are the 5 choices, just tell Cowork, okay, let's do number 1, right? Get started.
Mind if I give you a quick example of exactly what you just said?
Yeah.
So the way I've done this too is forget about giving them something to do about the work, about like the things they do in marketing. What I did is this: the single thing I hate the most in life, and I've probably lost many thousands of dollars, is expense reports. Right? I hate them so much. And I've been saying this forever. And then I said, why don't you just do it? Which is, okay, I've got Cowork. I've got the account for my credit card, the only one I use for this. And we use Gusto for like our expense stuff. And I just showed how you have Claude open on your browser, and you have one window open where you're authenticated to your credit card, one that looks at your work travel schedule on your calendar, and one is that expense thing. And then go do it for me. Give me the list first, because I don't want to put my personal expenses on there. I want to say these ones are not, exclude these, and then just do it for me. And I showed that to people, and now they're like, oh wait, now I can use this for my job. So take away something that people universally loathe doing. I suggest expense reports because no one likes those. And then once they see that, then they kind of draw the conclusion of, oh, I can apply it here.
The gateway drug. I think we're going to have a lot of people asking for Cowork after this webinar.
Yeah.
Awesome. It feels like we're tapping into this idea that like AI is not just about speed, but how we're rethinking like how to move through our various marketing systems. Nate, I'm going to go back to you. I feel like a lot of marketers are trying to figure out how to turn one strong idea into many useful assets without creating a lot of just, again, you said AI slop, but generic content. How are you using AI to scale content or campaigns while keeping the work, credible and sharp?
Yeah. So to me, it's a matter of first, like, once you got your brand voice down, and that includes the things we never say, and this is what we talk about, and these are the terms we never use, right? Then it becomes easy to build lots of repurposed content, right? So I can create, based on that one example, I think was in the brand thing, which is every time I come up with a new campaign, I need the overview of what it is. I need all of these things. I need a slide. I need a one pager. I need social, like all of that. And so you get it right once and have that brand voice perfect. And then it now just goes over and over and over again. And so I would say the AI has never tried to sneak an M dash by me ever. And so to me, it's like, when I'm talking about the brand stuff, the brand isn't enforced by review. It's encoded into a system, right? Every rule lives in the instructions, even the weirdly specific ones. And like words we never use, exact styling for product names. One color is only reserved for this product line. And so writing down those rules for a machine forced a level of brand clarity that the humans had been like coasting without.
Yeah. I feel like AI has ruined. I loved to use the M dash before the advent of AI, and now I feel like I can't use it anymore.
Nope, everyone's looking out for it. And
Yeah,
it's not this, it's that.
I know,
That's
total
the
penalty
newer one.
box. Melissa, what about you from a brand guardrails perspective? Like, how are you looking at AI content from that lens?
Yeah, so I mean, Nate is much more advanced than I am. I'm thrilled that I built a brand skill for us over the past few weeks. It's taken a lot of iteration, and actually now I have a couple of things I need to go back and tweak on it based on what Nate's done. But it's, The reason it came up was because I was starting to see present, even though we've got templates, we've got a brand portal, we've got all these places where people can go. I think, people they'll use those sort of basic templates or whatnot, but then they're AIing everything around it, right? Like, I want a chart that does this, I want this, And so I started seeing this even like in our executive presentations, and I was like, oh crap, like we got to wrangle this ASAP and give, not be to Nate's points, it's not about compliance anymore. It's really giving them the tools to run faster, so that we don't have to comply with everything, but like that our system just gets smarter, so they can just put in what they need to, and it goes. So, brand guardrails for sure is something that we're using it for. On the content side, this is probably our first use case. We're turning one piece of content into 10 pieces of content through AI. We're taking things like blogs and turning it into social cards and social posts and LinkedIn, content. And, if we've got video, we're turning into 10 videos. So we're finding it's accelerating a lot of that. But I think brand and content is where I'm seeing it most, at least right now in our organization.
Derek, your audience, I think, skews more like towards technical and developer communities. So I'm wondering how you're using AI to scale content and still be credible in their eyes.
Yeah, I don't think I've been in kind of tech and developer communities and B2B for a long time, so
Yeah.
I don't really feel like it's any different than any other company. Like, Melissa and I like have similar kinds of tech audiences, so I wouldn't think anything that I was doing was dramatically different from what she would be doing there. Um, but the thing that I'm really enjoying now with my team is uh, I think we all know the game telephone tag, right? That like I say something, then I whisper into Melissa's ear, right? And she picks it up and then she tells it to Lisa and Lisa tells it to Nate. And by the time it gets to Nate, the message is different, right? And every company, if you have like more than two marketers, basically lives in that game of like the telephone game where things change the further they get out. And we have a company of nearly 500 employees, so the chances of something changing down the line could be significant. But with AI and Claude skills, we have ICP skills. Here's our ICP. These are the personas that we're going after. These are the buyers that we're talking to. These are the priorities. We have our messaging house that's built as a skill. We have our positioning. We have our story brand, story framework that will tell depending on the types of things that we got. We have competitive messaging. All of that gets defined centrally within the different parts of the team, but shared as skills across the team. So when anyone is working on a new webinar coming up, an event, a guide for sales, a launch of a new product, something like that, they're all pulling these skills into that effort. And those skills are really, I think Melissa said, of like the brand guardrails that you use. So it keeps everyone really in alignment and not like you can't do that, you're going to move slower. But I know that if Melissa produced something and Nate produced something, they both are going to fall in the guardrails if they're using these skills. And that's always been a big challenge pre-AI to just get everyone on the same page. Like, is your sales engineer think that he's more crafty about this kind of messaging than the person that he got it from and therefore changing it? And then someone else likes it and they pick it up and they use it in their deck. So that game gets a lot more guardrails around it, which I think is really exciting because it's just one of these things that kind of comes out through AI and how you use it and leverage it to make everyone more productive, but keep everyone on that same brand page through a number of different attributes that become skills.
I'd love to stay with you for a minute because you just did a very nice segue into the next thing I wanted to chat about, which is just B2B marketing workflow overall.
Yeah.
Um, where do you see AI having the biggest impact on B2B marketing strategy and operations? You just listed a huge number of things that it's impacting.
I mean, the biggest one is just uh, natural language reporting. and I know there are a number of different companies that are in this space, but we have this thing. We do a lot of work in the Python space, so we have this interface to a tool called Omni, which we call PyGuy because it's related to Python. But I can ask PyGuy anything. Show me all of our latest campaigns and the results of those campaigns and the return on marketing investments of those campaigns. Show me all of the customer calls or detail all the customer calls we've had in the last week and give me the 5 themes coming from those customer calls. It's all the same interface. I can go to it and say, of our 52 million users, what are the latest AI packages that they're downloading and how have the trends changed over the last 3 years in those downloads of those packages? And by the way, when you're finished telling me that, write a report on the trends that we're seeing within those AI packages. Like that same access to more and more data from our data team is exposed to that system every day. So it gets more powerful for us. And that's where you can really, begin to look at, you're not waiting for some other team to produce the new Salesforce report or the new Tableau report or the new whatever that you might be looking for, or that like you have the dashboard, but you don't have the other angle to it. In this kind of natural language reporting, you can just say, okay, I got that dashboard, but I forgot to add in this one attribute. Can you run it again and add that attribute to the report? And it's done within a couple of seconds. So that is the biggest productivity unlock, especially at the management level of just what's going on and what can I tell about our business.
Are you, I mean, you just quantified the seconds type of metric, but are there any other metrics you're watching to know whether like that type of adoption is helping?
Yeah, we have something at Anaconda called Project Bolt. It is a company-wide initiative on AI. We have a Monday.com board for every part of the company, from legal to HR to product and engineering and sales engineering, marketing. And all of those have what are the projects that you're working on and how much time savings are there. And it's, usually hours to days to months on what we're looking at in terms of the unlocks there. And it's always like, oh my gosh, it's so refreshing when you don't expect it, but you interact with it. Like I went into Slack yesterday and I needed an NDA for someone, and I'm almost 2 months into this company, but I was like, how do I get an NDA? Let's go into Slack, into the Ask Legal channel. I'm like, hey, where do I find an NDA, that I can give to this industry analyst? And it just responds back with, oh, here's where the NDA is. I already knew you were asking that question. Here's the response. And I thought like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to wait for legal to, respond to this. But they've set up automations through all of this stuff to figure out what do people need and how do we surface it to them. And, now like for me, the legal department is like, wow, they're actually good people. They're not slowing me down with just wait for that person to, find the message on Slack and then respond to you.
That's awesome. Melissa, curious about where you're seeing the most operational drag in marketing workflow and where you think AI can realistically help. And then I also wanted to kind of double tap on something you mentioned around AI and field events and sales enablement, and wondering if you could talk about what that looks like in practice.
Yeah, so I'm going to take a click up for a second. So I think, I'm kind of going back to what you're talking about, like how is AI changing, B2B marketing? I think that buyer journey has really changed, right? Buyers, by the time they get to you, they've already got their short list, and they've gotten to that through communities and analysts and reviews and peer sites and all that kind of stuff before they even get to you as speaking as a vendor. So, our job as marketers is to meet them where they're at, right? We need to engage in these communities. We need to be at the places that they're at, podcasts, et cetera. But we also have to make sure that the stuff that we're putting out there is AI visible, right? We talk a lot about this in our team, is how can we make everything that we're doing, from websites to even social posts, but our G2 reviews, how can we make those AI visible, because that's going to help us get into sort of that short consideration list, right? And so we're using tools like Profound right now, which is a fairly new tool for us that we brought in the past couple of quarters to sort of understand where we are seeing better AI visibility in certain pieces of content versus others. So it's early days for us, but that's, really how we're it's sort of the underlying foundation for all the things that we're looking at from a marketing team as far as AI. So I say that because, all this experimentation that we're doing is all in the name of making sure that we are as visible as possible when people are going to search for us, or anybody, or a sim, or whatever it is, right? We want to be in that consideration set.
Awesome. Nate, how are you thinking about AI's role in audience research? Maybe, again, going into that personalization or campaign performance, where are you seeing the clearest business value?
Yeah, so I might sound a little bit like a broken record here. I'm sorry, but one of the things that has been really an eye opener for us is, so if we record customer calls or record when a sales rep is doing a pitch, and you do that in Gong before, and you kind of see the metrics of, like, if they're doing 70% of the talking, it's probably not going to go well. But now you can just use that as a data point, right? So one of my least favorite things in marketing is attribution. I feel like, first of all, it's always wrong. And second, it incentivizes bad behavior always. And so we had a different approach to attribution. And so we have someone on our team on the RevOps side that this is all she does, is build stuff with AI. And she just built this new attribution model. And we found, first of all, something interesting. 65% of our closed deals had been influenced by an event, which that informs how many events are we going to do. But the other thing was, over 53% of, I believe, of our attribution was wrong. More than half. And she built this model that is looking at everything. So instead of just inheriting something from, the CRM gets it from a first touch, whatever, like in a sales call, you're going to ask, where did you find out about us? And that's different from the last touch that was on a form fill, right? So we're now being able to look at all of those different data points to get to what is real. And to me, like, the only thing I care about attribution is, where should I stop spending money because it's not working, and where should I double down? And so now that we're able to get to the real data and we know it's right, that completely changes how I look at where I'm spending my money, where I'm spending my time, and where I'm hiring people. And so just having access to all of that right data, being able to query it correctly in an easy way, and then having it funnel its way to things like our CRM, but also how that then informs my strategy on what I'm going to be doing for the next 6 months, 3 months, whatever. That's what's really changed for me.
Awesome. Thank you. We've talked about workflows, speed and scale. I mean, obviously big parts of the equation. I'd love to talk a little bit about trust and judgment and brand control and how they factor in. And Melissa, again, as someone who's leading corporate communications and marketing, what risks do you think marketers need to keep in mind as AI adoption accelerates?
I think it was sort of touched on before with the whole telephone game thing, right? I think one thing that I'm sort of seeing, and again, I'm fairly new to the game, but one thing that I'm seeing is when we're creating skills, or we're creating prompts or whatever as a marketing team to help, other functions in the company, whether it's sales enablement or whatever. But what I'm finding is other people are also creating those skills, or their version of those things. So how do you sort of, and I just talked with our head of IT on this morning, how can we ensure that, what we're building, like I'll take the brand guardian, for example, is the only brand guardian. Like, you can't go siphon off a piece of that, or you can't go build your own little piece of that. How do we ensure that happens? We're not quite there yet, right? So I still have a wrangling sort of issue when it comes to that sort of thing. So I think it's as sort of this experimentation continues, you've got all of these people kind of replicating all of these things. So what is the single source of truth when it comes to an AI skill that's built within, marketing that's for another, function or activity or whatever?
Yeah. it makes you think that, you need enough structure so that teams can move quickly, but probably not so much that experimentation
Right.
slows down.
It's still not wild, wild west, right? But you're kind of
Yeah.
making progress on helping people move faster.
Yeah. Derek, how do you decide where AI should assist versus where human judgment needs to lead?
Yeah, that is a great question, and I think I'm still learning the answer depending on where I see AI shortcomings as you get into the various projects. But I think that the one of the things I talked about before, a couple of the things, system to system work. I need information from this system and that system and that system. Thumbs up. Like have AI go at it all day. Guardrails on things like brand, ICPs, messaging houses, all those things like completely make sense. Consensus building around, I have 5 transcripts of different conversations with people across our company that where we talk about our narrative and refining that, like give me the consensus view of like where did everyone land across those different conversations. Those kinds of things are really helpful from an AI perspective. Where it's not helpful, and I find like the human still has to lead it, is the storytelling side of it. Because AI just lacks zero human experience, it never gets the crisp story hook. Melissa and I were talking last night about this amazing experience, right? And that's what got us to buy X product, right? It never brings that. Like I was watching the Knicks game, I saw a commercial for this, product, and I went and bought it, and then I told Nate about that. It doesn't have any of those experiences, and the storytelling that really draws people in. AI, as much as I truly want it to be there and think this thing is supposed to be super smart, it is terrible at that. And the other thing I would say, just at a high general level, is it's really good on the what and also on the how, and it's pretty terrible on the why.
Hmm.
And the why, like you often in marketing need to get to the why. Why are customers buying? Why are competitors doing this? Why should we price this way? Why does this message work? Right? Why does this thing resonate? Because it doesn't have that experience, you're going to find limits to what you can do on that front when it comes to the whys.
Yeah, I
I
think I
think
think AI writes great book reports,
Hmm.
but it doesn't pass the so what test.
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah. I think humans still have to own that empathy, that judgment, that understanding the audience nuance, right?
Yeah.
It's great at handling the other things, but humans still own that, right? I mean, it's just, um, yeah.
The way I think about it is AI owns production, humans own experience and taste.
It's a great way of looking at it. Um, Derek, you mentioned in our prep, or I'll ask you to talk about it, but just your hiring philosophy around experience.
Yeah. Um, it is. I even had an interview this week where I asked someone, "How did you use AI to prepare for this interview?" Uh, and the answer is telling, because what I want is someone that says, "I'm AI forward, I'm curious, I've, looked into this, I've played with it, I've experimented with it," or like I started experimenting a year ago and here's where I am now. But it kind of tells you the progression of like what did you do and how did you apply this in different ways. And I don't care if anyone's using AI to prep for interviews, right? I use AI to prep for interviews, right? So it's not, I don't consider it a dirty little secret in that regard, but I'm more curious on not just did you use AI, how did you use it? And listening to kind of a conversation like this, are you going to expose an idea to me where I'm like, aha, that's awesome, that's brilliant. I want to steal that idea or approach for something else that I'm doing. because I like those are the kinds of people I think that you can get a lot more out of. There's a really good friend that I have that a couple of days a week we're texting each other like, here's what I just did. Like, you're not going to believe it. You want more of those people on your team. So hiring with trying to source for that curiosity. And curiosity plays into a lot of other things in marketing, especially in the tech world. So
I tell
Uh,
my team AI is sort of the new growth path, right? I mean, when you think about, hey, I want to be promoted or I want to get to the next level, it is AI about now managing people? Like, is it going to be about that? I think it's about other things. So the more you can master AI, that's really your growth path. That's how you kind of move up, right? So I'm saying that a lot to my team these days.
got it. Nate, I wanted to touch on one other thing quickly in this theme, which is guardrails or habits to help teams use AI confidently without over trusting the output. I mean, you talked about training the models with video, but is there one place or a set of guardrails that you use to kind of keep AI from having too much authority over the output?
Yeah. So one big thing is like content fabrication, right? AI will invent customer metrics with total conviction out of nowhere and pass it off, and it looks like it could be right, but
Right.
it's not based on anything, right? So this is like where it really gets important, and I keep talking about skills, but like for me, the way that I encode that is I don't just try to like reprompt anything. It's anytime you're using a customer metric, you have to show me where you got it from, and you have to cite it every single time, right? And so it wasn't until I did stuff like this we started getting things where I would get a list of customers that weren't actually customers. Like, where the hell did this come from? And then I'm saying, oh, I got it. We need to encode a skill that shows all of our customer list and reference, a source that is our source of truth, right? So to me, it's like anytime you give an open-ended question that could result in something being made up, and especially like a name of a customer that isn't a customer, that could be really bad. You've got to kind of remember this is a machine, right? And a machine needs context. To get that context, you have to give it to it somewhere, right? So to me, it's like anywhere that it could go wrong, because AI is great at giving you an answer that sounds really smart, but could be totally, totally wrong. So I have to make sure to encode all of those things. And that's why I've got like 75 skills now in Claude. But that's the way I think about it is, why wouldn't you lie to me? And
Hmm.
then, oh, because I didn't give you an instruction that this is the truth.
yeah.
Anyone else on that topic?
Yeah, well, I was this was a couple of weeks ago now. I was doing something with co-work, and it involved reading through my emails for some project. And then I was thinking, well, I just want it to read the emails, but I don't want it to actually send an email. So like, read this, don't send it, basic rule. But then I got to thinking, like, it's crafty, right? So it's going to figure out, like, there are different things that I'm not thinking about. So I went through and said, if I was a cybersecurity researcher and I was giving cowork these instructions, like, what would I ask it to not do, and kind of what guardrails would I put in place? And it, comes back with, well, here are 6 things that you should definitely have it do and set the rules. I'm like, okay, set those as the rules. And then it goes off and sets the rules. And then I double check, like, okay, now, you're a more senior person with even more experience and you're red teaming this. Like, how would you make it fail safe in putting those things in? So I'll say I don't always have time to do those kinds of things, but those kinds of don't forget the guardrails. And even if you don't know what they should be, asking what they could be, because there were some basic things that it came back with. Like, of course, if I thought long enough about it, I would have come up with something like that. But of course, none of us have time to think that long about, what we're doing, especially when it's AI is the quick quick sugar rush continuously throughout our days.
Right. Okay.
And
Well,
I
speaking of,
Can I
quick.
just
Oh
add
yeah, go
one
ahead.
really quick thing? I think it's really important to remember that AI is not a human being. Like really, 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 really important. And it's very easy to just like you start chatting with it, and it's like it feels like you're talking to another human being, but it's not. It's the world heavyweight champion of task execution, but it's not a person. I'll give it one quick example. Like, so rough thing 2 weeks ago, our dog died, right? And a friend of mine sent me a text, and I saw the suggested reply. It was completely bonkers. It was like as if I had just, won an award. And I'm like, no. And it's just a reminder of we've got to stop thinking of AI as another human being, or else you're just going to be sadly disappointed, and it's going to do things that you're like. But if you just look at it as this is a task execution machine, that if I give it the right instructions, it does those things. I do not want it to try to mimic, empathy. I don't want it to try to think, about the more deeper human emotions. Like it's never going to do that, and I don't want it to, and that's where we come in. So I think it's just really important to remember that, and like really approach it like this is a machine. It's doing all these tasks that I want it to do, but it's never going to sound human. And I'm sure it's going to get better, but right now, the risk of that is pretty high.
Um, I wanted to do, I was going to say, speaking of the sugar rush, just a quick like lightning round with like a couple questions to get like super fast answers from all of you before we move into our audience Q&A. And we have a handful of pre-submitted questions, and I'm told we have about 4 that have come. So I will start by asking you all, what is one AI workflow every marketer should test in the next 30 days?
We going one by
Uh,
one or just jumping in?
Yeah, go for it.
Melissa, I think you're about to go. I don't want to step on you.
yeah, no worries. I would say, I think I said this earlier. I said one of the easiest ways I think to, if you're sort of new to this, is take a piece of content, use AI to transform it into multiple, 5 to 10. See what it does. Test it out on social cues and blogs and all that kind of stuff. I think it's a really easy way to see, hey, I've got this one piece of content and look what I just did with it. I don't think you need to know how to build skill sets or anything like that to be able to get to there.
If your IT team allows it, connect your Claude or ChatGPT to Slack and say, what Slack messages do I need to know about that are unread now? Because I think everyone here must have like 80 unread Slack channels that you're afraid to open because you don't know what's under that. Have AI do that for you.
Okay. Derek, what is one AI misconception marketers need to move past?
Oh gosh. It, uh, it is, oh God, like the thing to move past. It doesn't have a very good memory. As much as people are talking about memory, it understands everything. It remembers who you are, it remembers parts of previous conversations. It has an awful memory. So you really have to double check on whatever it's telling you, whatever is the latest thing. It has great memory until it doesn't, and it doesn't inform you when the memory is tapped out.
Okay. Nate, if you were rebuilding a modern marketing function today, where would you start with AI?
I am. That's what I'm doing right now. Yeah. So just like the question before, that Derek was talking about, the hiring profile, you said you use the word curiosity, and to me, like my hiring profile is someone with relentless curiosity, right? Someone that just like can't go to bed when they have an idea in their head. And so it's those kind of people. And I'm also just like, I'm not trying to build what I've always built. I'm not saying I've got product marketing here and I've got demand here and brand here. And instead, I'm just trying to figure out how do we organize around the work that needs to be done. And you've got people, you've got jobs, you've got work, and then you've got tools. And so to me, it's like, I think what we've done is we've grouped all of these together in this immutable object that's called a role. And I'm saying that's just not the case anymore. So how do we find the right people organized around the work that needs to be done? Forget about titles, forget about you're here, not here, and find the way to like use people to their like absolute best, but also using the tools they now have access to, but also understanding how it all fits together So I don't just take a prescribed, I've got to hire, an analyst relation person tomorrow. I'm saying, well, what does that mean today? What is that? Where does it all fit together? So I'm just kind of exploding the whole way I've always done it, which is scary, and I'm probably going to get stuff wrong, but it's just a different world today. And I'm really looking for those people that are trying to do more and kind of the ultra generalist instead of very, very specialized roles.
Thank you. Um, like I mentioned, we do have quite a few audience submitted questions. So we've got about 8 minutes left. So I'm going to pivot and ask you, Melissa. Our first one is, how do you draw the line between creativity and process? Are there purposeful AI uses that help us become more creative as humans rather than defaulting to machine-generated creativity?
I think it's really hard to replicate creativity within AI, right? It's kind of one of the, when we're talking about what's the difference between AI and where does that line sit? I think it's really hard to recreate that. It's really about using AI to sort of expand those possibilities, not narrow them. I think it's also, one thing that I think about a lot in terms of the creativity piece is asking AI for alternatives, opposing viewpoints, ideas I haven't considered. So is that the creative part of AI? Maybe, but it's still sort of me thinking about just other options as I make those decisions of what should be a part of that creative decision-making process.
Thank you. So I'm actually going to go. I was just looking through the pre-submitted ones. I think we've covered a lot of it. So I'm going to start with, there's talk about integrating with outside sources, for example, Slack, Granola, expense reports. How do you get around privacy concerns with these integrations? Derek, you brought up
Yeah.
a bunch of
So
those. Yeah.
internally, I'll just say before we release anything, IT looks at it, they test it. We release it to a small group of employees to beta test it, see how it's working. And I think putting those kinds of checks and balances, guardrails on it as well. I'll also say, but this is much more of an IT side or security side of things than a marketing side of things, is there are technologies out there that you can buy that help put the guardrails on these things at different levels and different places within the kind of connection point. So um, I'd leave that to the IT guy versus marketing. I want my people using as much as possible.
Um, the next question is, do you do tutorials to show how you train your AI agents to adhere to brand, imagery, look, feel, word style? We have found even though we put templates in the agent, it still creates imagery that is unique to our brand and slaps it on the correct PowerPoint template or fact sheet template, but the image doesn't align to our look and feel. Thanks for any insight or live tutorials you are aware of.
Yeah. So the way I do exactly that is, you're not going to be surprised. It's in a skill. And to do that, let me actually just show you real quick. So you've just got to be very explicit about it. Here. Right. So it must be an actual graphic, not, it can't just be whatever. Here's the hosted ones. Here's what to do in PowerPoint. Here's what to do in Docs. What not to do. Never do this. Never do that. Like very, very, very explicit on the use cases and in what application. You do that and that'll go away.
Awesome. Thank you.
And I will say, if you don't know how to do that, right, just take the transcript of this webinar, feed it what Nate said, and say, can you create a skill for me that does what Nate just said, like to the 10th power?
What you
And
just
it
said is
will
really important. It really is, which is like never take a skill off the shelf and just upload it. You
never,
upload the skill and say,
never.
all right, what
Yeah.
about this is wrong
So,
for us? What about this is duplicated in something that already exists?
Yeah.
And if I want to build a skill, even if I like write some of it down myself, I'm saying, what am I missing? Look through our past conversations. What have we got wrong over and over again that I've told you, like, no, it's this? Like, always use the AI to get better AI output.
yeah.
Continue training it.
Yep.
There are
Yep.
no trusted sources for skills. Do not download skills and use them. Like you're attaching these skills to the thing that has all of your data, just ask Claude to create the skill for you. Get better at asking it to create better skills for you.
Yep.
So at least you know what the source of them is.
There are some really good sources to start with, but use them as a starting point. Do not ever just run them, or else you're going to sound like everybody else.
Nate, there was a question for you about what is the app or method you mentioned where you have been able to capture accurate attribution data for marketing so you know where not to spend or double down?
Yeah, so we built that ourselves because we knew, like, okay, in Salesforce, we have all of the basic fields for attribution, right? All the inferred sources and all of that stuff. And we said, because we have, gong calls and we've got Slack channels and we have that, we basically then said, if we were to build better attribution given these sources, what would we need to build? And that's what we built. So like all we're doing is taking advantage of the better sources of data that we already have access to, and then built it just based on those sources. It wasn't hard.
Okay, thank you. If you're just starting to learn and play around with AI tools like Copilot, what advice would you give to content creators? I love the take one piece of content and create multiple pieces. Is there another piece of advice I should be working on?
So I cannot speak to Copilot because I've never used it.
I think it was co-work, maybe.
Oh, co-work. Oh, yeah.
I think there was maybe. It's probably easy to confuse the two.
I have a simple one, and I did this in a blog a week or so ago. I wrote a blog that told people how to do something with our technology. And in the blog, I said at the end, if you want to do this, just copy this whole blog into Cowork and say, do what Derek did. Right. So if Melissa writes a blog and she's got a great blog on attribution and how she approached it, even if it's not super detailed, just copy her blog and say, do what Melissa did. And you would be surprised what the output would be from just doing something like that. So you can get very good at prompting by just copying other people's stuff.
And Nate, there was a follow-up about wondering what resources you recommend for planning an attribution tool build. So they were giving you kudos for building your own. Would be nice to understand what modeling you are using to prove incrementally for each channel.
Yeah, hit me on LinkedIn and I'll connect you with Jill who built it, and she can tell you all of the things to avoid and all of that stuff. I'm happy to do that.
Awesome. I think we got through almost everything. We'll take a look, and if there's, questions, we can field back to everybody. I know we'll do a recap of this this webinar, but I mean, this has been a fantastic conversation. I feel like we probably need a part two. I mean, we covered a lot, and it feels like we could have covered so much more. I feel like my big takeaway is that AI is not simply a production shortcut, but used well, it's helping us marketers think faster, test more ideas, reduce operational drag, and focus on I'm sorry, Nate, what did you say? Human work.
Human work. That's
human
right.
creativity and human work. So a big thank you to Nate Burke, Derek Weeks, and Melissa Beck for sharing your incredible insights. And thank you to everyone who joined us today and submitted questions. Please watch for follow-up materials. We will share the recording of this. We will draft a blog post on this. So we look forward to keeping the conversation going with you three and the audience. And it feels like things will probably change radically even in the next, 3 months. So maybe we just need to do a fall do-over.
Your part two will be a a different conversation.
Exactly. Thank you all. Everyone have a fantastic weekend.
Thank you.